Hey everybody, hey Super Batman Nerd. Uh Happy Ghoul Years, boys and ghouls. The same to you, Super Batman Nerd, and me and TJ are returning with the second half of Tales from the Crypt, the fifth season. And we're gonna talk about, I think this is the last six episodes of this season, and then we will hopefully next Wednesday be moving along to the sixth season. Um, this seems like this has went really, really quickly. I think because I've enjoyed these, I'm not gonna go rehash the Friday 13th the series stuff again. Um, but this has really been enjoyable. Going back through these Tales from the Crypt episodes. A lot of them I remember, but some of them I'd forgotten. And to be honest, they just keep getting better and better, I think, almost. And that is not usually the case with the series. Usually they start to taper off somewhere along the way. And I keep waiting for that to happen. But so far, for me anyway, Tales from the Crypt, that hadn't happened. Hey, Blissful. Um, yes, and happy 2024 to everybody. I'm going to go ahead and add TJ. He's just TJ tonight. No Crypt Keeper names or anything like that. So, go ahead and add TJ here. Hey, TJ.
I couldn't think of nothing.
You couldn't think of nothing tonight?
I was like rushing to finish up, and I was like, "Oh, forget it. I'll just put my name."
And well, I almost was late because I almost dozed off on the couch. See, that's what happens, boys and girls, when you get old. And I'm,
It's time. I mean,
I can't stay awake for anything. I actually put in Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which was one of the things that Steve got me for Christmas.
ah,
Um, I got the 4K of it in, um, and I watched Fatal Games on Blu-ray last night. And once I get a few of these new ones in that I've watched, I'm going to do like a little review show. And I love using that Deadite scale that I've got in place now. Those of you that watch the New Year's reviews will see me using that Deadite scale. Um, but so, what do we got coming up for the rest of the week? I'll just say that real quick. Now, tomorrow night will be, barring anything happening, will be Seductive Poison the Resurgence. And I decided to do an unnecessary sequels episode.
all of them.
All the yeah,
Every
sequels are
sequel is a
unnecessary.
cash grab. It's not about integrity or continuing the story. It's all about money. But anyway,
I would agree with that, TJ. But I figure some of the ones that I bring up are going to be controversial because here's what I'm doing. I'm kind of along the same lines that TJ said. You know, all of them are unnecessary, but if I was to do that, we might go on for days. So I'm picking certain ones that I think or I feel like the series would have been just fine had they not kept going on and on with them. Um, Allie P, you say you're going to be spending hours talking about the Puppet Master sequels then. I don't know if I'll get to the Puppet Master ones because, like, how many of those damn movies are there?
a lot.
Um, but some people are going to say, well, how can you say that's an unnecessary sequel? That's a great movie. That's not the point. There's some sequels that are very well made and enjoyable, but you got to think, were they necessary? In a lot of cases, no, they weren't. It was just like TJ said, it's a money grab. The powers that be want to make more money, so they keep churning them out.
They're working on a new one.
Okay, so Friday, barring anything happening, will be another midday with Dana and Jay. It might be a little bit shorter than normally. Normally, me and Jay will go on for a couple hours or so on those. But Steve says because we're taking one of the dogs to the vet for a checkup on Saturday, it might be a good idea if we go ahead and get groceries on Friday. So we'll still be having one. It just won't be quite as long as normal. Saturday and Sunday, of course, I got a couple of, and see, that's another part of getting old. You can't remember anything without notes and stuff like that. But I'm going to have Blood Cult on the 6th, which is Saturday, and Just One of the Guys, which of course is a comedy movie, on the 7th, on Sunday. So if anybody's interested in joining me live on the stream for those, I'd be glad to have you. Um, Super Batman Nerd, you say, in my opinion, the Dead Pit Boys got off light. I could have had them watch a 3-hour movie called Dick Shark. Uncle Bill says he'd watch Dick Shark, so that's okay, Blissful. Blissful, I don't think Blissful will mind me telling this. Blissful had a pet death in
Oh,
the family, so
sorry.
she may be, dividing her time. But I told her earlier today, I said, if you feel like coming in and hanging out with some friends, we'd love to have you on here. If not, that's okay too. So I just thought that I would bring that up. Um, so Blissful says hi to TJ. Chris is in here. He says evening all / the like. I think Allie P says there's 12 to 13 of those Puppet Master
15,
movies.
and there's one they're working on.
Oh boy. And I apologize, but I'm eating some peppermint bark that's left over from Christmas time, which is pretty good actually. I don't know how many of y'all like peppermint bark, but so we're gonna go ahead and get started with these episodes. Which the first one is Well Cooked Hams, which I think is kind of an interesting title for this one. We have Billy Zane. I wonder if that's why Billy Zane wasn't Billy Zane in like the Bordello of Blood Tales from the Crypt movie.
Yep.
I'm wondering if that maybe he got asked or he said, "Hey, can I be in this?" or whatever because he was in this episode. But he's really good in this. And I'm not familiar with the director, Elliot Silverstein. Maybe TJ has some.
The car.
The car? Okay. Okay. But this one is another one about an episode about magicians, which it kind of reminded me of that one episode from Friday the 13th, the series.
The Great Montero, episode 6, season 1, with Leslie Donaldson.
Yep. Yep. So you noticed kind of some similarities too with them.
Knives, that's like exactly the same kind of.
Yeah. And burning, using a candle or whatever to light the rope on fire. And I was like, somebody must have watched that episode because this is.
Friday the 13th people read the comic book of the Tales from the Crypt and they said,
yeah, and said, hey, But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let TJ start talking about this episode real quick here.
Yeah, so Billy Zane is a magician. He's not very charismatic. He's sort of very kind of. So that's actually a good actor to play that you're bad at something is
He's an asshole too.
Yeah, Well, he has murdered a fellow magician and stole his act, basically. Um, he has an assistant, which she was the assistant of the, the previous magician, played by Miriam Dabo from isn't she an Extro, and she's been on a bunch of stuff.
Oh, sorry, Super Batman Nerd. It was Demon Knight. Yeah, not Bordello Blood, but Demon Knight that Billy Zane was in.
Same difference. Um, yeah, and so yeah, like I said, he's not great at being a magician, really. That's why he has to steal other people's uh, tricks. Um, he meets this other magician who has this great act, and he's like, well, he's like, oh, I've never heard of you, and he's like, played by Martin Sheen, plays this magician with his heavy makeup and thick accent. He's got one of those "I am a magician" accent. I will make this woman disappear. You know, that one of those. Billy Zane kills him for his trick, which is acid falls supposed to fall on him if he doesn't do the trick in time, and then the knives come down. Of course, the knives look like, well, with the magician, Billy Zane sees him perform the trick, and the audience thinks he's killed by these bunch of these blades that come down and like pierce the box that he's in, and the box opens. Everybody's like, "Oh no!" and he's all bloody, and then it turns out that was part of the trick.
Mm-hmm.
So Billy murders this guy for his trick. Gets these two like sexy twin assistants, so the other assistant leaves because she's like, "Oh, you're a piece of crap," basically, because he's a murderer and not even a good magician. So he gets visited by this man who has just, I don't know if he's invented it, but he has the first ever movie camera, and he's like, he presents to Billy Zane, well, I can make you more famous than just doing these little shows. The whole world can see you in theaters. And he's like, oh, I'm intrigued. Because he wants to make money, of course. Because it's all about money. Like we were talking earlier about.
Exactly.
Or doing Steamboat Willie, terrible horror movie that's probably going to suck ass. Have you seen the trailer for that?
I haven't seen that yet. No.
So these kids are trapped, and they go. These kids are going on. This girl's having her 21st birthday, and they all meet for a party at this amusement park. And there's a guy with a Steamboat Willie mask going around killing people. And during part of the thing, someone goes, "I'm going to be back. I'll be right back." And one of the friends goes, "Oh, look at a horror movie. He said that that means he's not going to come back." I'm like,
"Oh, are you serious? They do that
with Mickey Mouse?" So it looks like they had a script for a slasher movie that was going to be the Scream movie, and then Steamboat Willie. They're probably like, "Oh, Steamboat Willie's going to be in the public domain soon. Why don't we just use a Mickey mask?" So it looks like that's what they did. It doesn't look like it's going to be any good. And then there's another movie that's going to be made, another Mickey Mouse Steamboat Willie horror movie. This one I think is actually going to take place on a boat, which makes more sense than and then there's somebody released a short on YouTube, which is sort of not a movie, it's like a documentary of that steamboat. The steamboat in Steamboat Willie was an actual ship that disappeared and crashed, and people disappeared from it. And it's actually a better concept than just having a slasher movie with Mickey running around killing people. I'm like, we didn't do a rant, but that would be my rant. That come up with something different and creative and original. Don't just do some cheap thing that you're gonna go, see, I was the first to make a Mickey Mouse. See how great I am? Look at my other stuff, because this is gonna suck. So anyway, back to the episode. So he takes over this magic trick from the guy he killed, and the guy wants to film him, so he's gonna do his show, and the guy's gonna. It's one of those old movie cameras that you have to move the crank constantly for it to work. Like, I think if you've seen the what was it? the Nosferatu movie, not the one where they're making the movie. It's about
Uh,
making the movie. I forget what the movie's called. Is it Shadow of the Vampire? Is that what that one was?
that might be it. Yeah, that sounds
Uh,
right.
so he's filming it, and Billy Zane gets trapped, and he gets injured to the point where he's dying, basically. And we find out it was all part of the trick, which was like, so the guy he originally killed, we don't see that happen. We only hear about it after the fact. But the original person he murdered for their act was always alive. He was the second magician, and he was the filmmaker. So he basically plays three characters, all played by Martin Sheen. Who even I mean, if you really look, you can tell it's Martin Sheen.
Oh yeah,
Um, I think it would have been a better setup if we've actually saw the first character, because we're supposed to care about this character who Billy Zane kills, but we never meet them until the big
mm,
reveal at the end. I think it would have been better if they had at least introduced him for a little bit at the beginning. But anyway, yeah. So it ends. Billy Zane dies on stage. Martin Sheen is not character is now out of his. He's taken off his disguises and he's now back to himself. And then um, his assistant was always in on it from the beginning.
right.
Because when he goes to reveal himself, she takes over filming with the camera, and she's like, "Oh, I see. She was always part of it." So, yeah, that's that episode.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in my mind that Billy Zane's character deserved what happened to
He was a
him.
murderer.
I mean, he was an asshole. He was a murderer. So yeah, he deserved it.
Probably hated animals. Anyway.
Although this wasn't my favorite of the ones we're going to talk about tonight, I still think it was a really good episode, and I agree with TJ that they maybe should have showed Martin Sheen's character early on, had some kind of flashback or something to show him, because TJ's right. You're supposed to be behind this character 100%, the Martin Sheen character, and you don't even see him, until very late in the game, till the episode's almost over.
It's
And
like in a sitcom where they bring in a character. I'm the cousin who everybody's been always talks about, and we know who he is. And I'm like, you never mentioned him for 4 seasons. Who the hell is this guy? You're supposed to care about.
yeah, exactly. So that was the only, in my opinion, weak point. And um, I I would have to agree too that you can still tell it's Martin Sheen too in the makeup, because I don't know about anybody else, but I think Martin Sheen has a distinctive voice anyway.
He tried
That
doing all different accents
mhm.
with all three characters, but yeah.
But I can still, that's Martin Sheen. If I close my eyes, that's Martin Sheen to me still. Yeah.
It's like in The
Um,
Wizard of Oz, where the guy who plays the wizard also was the guy at the beginning, and he's the guy
yeah.
on the horse, and he's the guy at the door. Like he has four
Yeah.
parts in that movie.
Exactly. But I still did like it. Like I said, some of these other episodes, like one where, not the next one we're going to talk about, but the one after that, I really, really like that. And I like the twist. I had completely forgotten about that one too, but we'll get to that one. But I'll turn it back over to TJ so he can do a comparison.
So the comic book version, um, it's about these two guys who put on shows. Um, it's sort of like they steal the idea from this other guy, kill him, use his sort of his act, and then they get their comeuppance at the end. Um, but it's more supernatural, where it's the ghost of the person they killed that's causing all these crazy weird things to happen, and at the end, the two of them die on stage just like Billy Zane does. the original act in the comic book is one person gets acid thrown in their face, and the other one gets their face shoved onto a stove.
Mm.
Um, and at the end, you find out, oh, it was all a trick. None of them, nobody was really hurt, but it's just about the whole spectacle of uh, what's going on. So at the end of the comic book, when these two guys die the way the people are pretend to die at the beginning of the story, and then as the audience runs out because they're afraid of all the crazy stuff that has happened, one person's left the audience, and it's the corpse of the person they killed because the body had disappeared after they killed it, and the corpse is just kind of smiling at them, dead on the stage.
I
But
think that's interesting, though.
it's also it's based on a historical. Back in France, there was a vaudeville type of thing where it was like horrors of vaudeville. So they would have people like. Have you seen The Wizard of Gore, the Herschel Gordon Lewis movie?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
So in that, this magician performed these really tricks where people get spikes in their head, and it's very gory and stuff like that. Well, that was sort of the whole thing back. It was sort of like a sideshow.
Hmm.
It was like a vaudeville sideshow with acts where they pretend to stab people and pretend to kill people, like the whole thing where that's what the whole I think the whole I'm guessing that the whole thing, like when a magician has the guillotine and the head gets cut off and you go, see,
Yeah.
I wasn't really, my head didn't really get, it's sort of that kind of a spectacle, but it was like more like that in France, and it was happened between 1897 and 1962. And I guess, by then, movies and TV were popular and people weren't going to theaters for stuff anymore. So, yeah, so it's a different story, but it's kept basically the same kind of.
Yeah,
A
it
lot of these
they
this season are, if you the comic ones are so different, it's weird. But
uh
there's one I couldn't find the comic story for, so when we get to that, I'll say, hey, I don't know anything.
okay. That's okay.
So yeah.
Uh
Oh, and that was Tales from the Crypt 27. That story. So
okay. So moving on to the next one. Um I was sitting there racking my brain because Anthony Michael Hall's in this episode called Creep Course. And Nina, I'm probably going to massacre her name. Do you know how to pronounce her name, TJ?
I've never heard her name, so Sima Zesko. I don't know.
That works for me.
Sure, why not?
And
I've never heard of her.
I know it might be controversial, but Jeffrey Jones is in this. I can't help it. He's in the episode. Uh,
What the episode's about is kind of like, ooh.
yeah, if you think about it, yeah. Um, but I like this episode really, really well. But the thing was, I could not think of any other time where Anthony Michael Hall played an asshole. And he's pretty much an
Oh,
asshole
kills.
because I was so used to seeing him play nerdy characters. He kind of made a name for himself back in the 80s
Yeah.
playing these nerdy characters. Uh, you know, uh, uh, oh gosh, he was kind of nerdy even in National Lampoon's Vacation, but the 16 Candles.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a geek. I mean, they called him the geek. I mean, that was just what he was supposed to do, and he was just kind of an overzealous. Would you know get up close to girls and come on to girls and stuff like that, especially Molly Ringwald, who he had a thing for during most of that movie. The Breakfast Club, the same thing. He was the nerdy, smart guy that they said, "Here, you write the paper. We're supposed to write this paper or here." But so it was kind of unusual to see him play this asshole, this dick, basically, who just cares about himself. But this one was written and directed by Jeffrey Bohm, which the name is familiar to me, but I'm trying to place, other stuff he's did, and I bet TJ knows.
He's a writer mostly. I don't think he directed anything else but this episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Okay.
But he's written screenplays for Lethal Weapon, Dead Zone, Indiana Jones movies, Lethal Weapons movies. He's done a bunch of that.
Right. Okay. So again, I'm going to turn it over to TJ to talk about Creek Course.
Yeah. So this it's about this class run by Professor Finley, played by the great Jeffrey Jones, uh, and Anthony Michael Hall, Reggie, and Nina, whatever her name is, Stella, are both in his class. Reggie's a football jock, so he's not really into. Not that he's stupid. He's just not into school and tests and whatever. And she's sort of the smart one in class, answering all the questions, and she ends up tutoring him. But he's like, hey, I don't really want to do any of this stuff. I really don't care. Why don't we break into the professor's? I'm gonna guess they're in college. Yeah, they're in college.
Uh-huh.
Let's break into the professor's house, and you'll pretend you're going to the professor's house for extra credit work or whatever. I'll sneak into the house, steal the test results, and we'll all be happy. And she's sort of the good girl. She doesn't really want to do that, but she's sort of like one of those girls that like not guys don't really look at it because she's got glass. She reminds me. She's so much like Velma. I don't know why they should have. If they had done a movie, but a Scooby Doo live movie back in the early '90s, she would have been perfect for Velma.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Had the haircut and the glasses. This is even the part in the movie where like she said something about her glasses, and I'm like, she's Velma. It's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Linda Cardellini, whatever how you pronounce her name is. Linda Cardellini. How do you pronounce her name? I don't know. The one who was Velma in the.
Velma.
Anyway, yeah, she goes to the professor's place. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're very good. You're smart in class, and you're very you pay attention. That's the key. She pays attention now. Remember that." So so Anthony Michael Hall's sneaking in. We find out he's Jeffrey Jones. I hate saying this name. The professor kidnaps her basically, and his thing is he kidnaps young co-eds, throws them into his basement, and he has these sarcophagus from this ancient Egyptian prince, and I guess he gets. It's been in his like the sarcophagus has been in his family for generations, I think, and he's basically gets some kind of power or something. I forget what he gets. He gets some kind of something special for.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but he
It's like
does get something.
like ancient Egypt or what, maybe it was something like that. But anyway, she's basically a sacrifice for you sacrifice virgins to this Egyptian prince, and he gets whatever riches or whatever. So she's the sacrifice. And Anthony Michael Hall comes, and you think, oh, he's going to save the day. Nope, he's been in on it all this time. They have the professor and Stella have a struggle, and Anthony Michael Hall grabs Stella and goes, "I don't believe you. How could you do this? You never do anything right." And he shoves her into the room. They lock her in, and they go up, and Anthony Michael Hall is now blackmailing the professor, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't just want a good grade. I want money and stuff from you now." And the professor's like, "Okay, I guess I got to do that." So they go down to see how everything worked out with the prince. We find out that Stella, because she pays attention, found out about, realized that the prince was in love with this princess or whatever, and she pretends to be the princess and convinces the mummy. It's a mummy episode. She convinces the mummy that she's his lost love.
Yeah, wasn't it Princess Nephra? Wasn't that what?
I think that's what I think it's supposed to be Nefertiti. I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and the prince kills them, but she's not she gets away, but she's still affected by what happened. Because late at the end of the episode, we're back to the class, and she has done her school project, and we see Anthony Michael Hall and the professor in the sarcophagus is sarcophagi, maybe that's it, and they're dead, and like because they talk about how when the pharaoh when they buried the princes and stuff like that, they would pour this goo down there. They would pour this liquid down, and it would melt all their internal organs, so they could remove them. So actually, the professor gives this. He puts it in they're drinking. I skipped that part. They were up there drinking a toast to sort of their new business arrangement, and the professor has contaminated Reggie's drink with that mixture, and he ends up puking. It's very good though. It's very gooey and gory, and there's like puke and stuff all over the place. And then he goes down to claim his prize with Stella, and like I said, he finds out that she has tricked the pharaoh into the prince into thinking she's his lost love, and he kills Jeffrey Jones, obviously ripping his I think he rips his sticks the thing up his nose.
Yeah, takes that hook and pulls his brain out through his nose.
Which is cool. Which reminds me of the Tales from the Dark Side movie episode 249, which was based on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story.
Yes, it is.
Interesting because I think because Tales from the Dark Side movie is after this, right? Or when did it come out?
I want to say like 90 or 91 that movie was.
Okay. So they both had the idea of using the... Because they had the same thing with the putting in the hook and pulling out the brain and all that stuff.
I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it earlier.
So yeah, and like I said, she's back at the school, and one of the teachers is like, the cops want to see you, and she's like, did I get a good grade?
Yeah, I know. She's
eyes in the sarcophagi in the background, dead and all embalmed and whatever. So yeah, she gets away, but I'm sure her mental state is.
She's gonna have to go downtown though, because the cops are saying we can talk about it on the way downtown.
Yeah, she probably gets convicted of killing them or whatever, but whatever. But yeah, I like this episode. It's funny. It's a funny episode, but it's also gory, which I approve of. And I think Stella did a really good job of playing the nerdy, geeky girl who just wants the boy to like her, and then everyone tries to kill her. Like, what did I do?
I was thinking she played some more sexier characters in. Gosh, wasn't she?
License to Drive, but I don't think she was playing a sexy character, or was she? Maybe not. I don't know.
I know she was in One More Saturday Night. I don't know how many people have seen that movie. But that's a fun movie. If you've never seen it, I used to catch it on satellite all the time when my family first got a satellite dish. One of the small ones, not the larger ones from way back. We were late adopters of everything. So by the time we got one, they were the small satellite dishes. But that's where I caught One More Saturday Night. And why am I thinking she was on one of those? Remember those Red Shoe Diaries?
Yeah, I think she was in one of those, yeah.
Yeah. And weren't those like, I'm not saying hardcore stuff, but
yeah, that's what
they were softcore.
They were like Showtime softcore types of movies.
So she wasn't really all out sexy in One More Saturday Night, but she was a lot less nerdy than she was. And it was kind of like her and Anthony Michael Hall flip roles around or something like that. Although she's not like a bitchy character in the things I've seen her in. She's just not nerdy. So,
also, one of the cops played Shonuff from The Last Dragon.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to when he doesn't have the big afro and the little beard and stuff like that. And he's, it's
Right. Um, so I like this episode a lot.
yeah.
Not as much as the next one we're going to talk about, but I did really, really like it. Like I said, these episodes just seem to keep getting better and better. I don't know if it was just they had so much rich material to pull from, having these comic books in place,
Mm-hmm.
to pull these stories from. As we went along, I know there have been some of them where the episode on HBO was very, very different than the original comic book. Sometimes it's slightly different, um,
Sometimes they
but
take a word and they make a whole story out of it that has nothing to do with the comic.
yes, exactly.
I'm like, why did you even bother? You should have just said it was your original work instead of.
Yeah, that would have been a.
There's, like I said, there's something that happened in the rest of the season, and I'm like, why'd you even bother?
So, yeah, I'll turn it back over to TJ so he can talk about the differences between this episode and the comic.
So in the comic, it starts off with it's a totally different story. It's the same story, but the characters are different. So in this one, Stella's this girl in school, and she wants a good grade. So she dresses really sexy, and she goes over to the professor, this kind of old,
Hmm.
gangly professor's house to I'm sure. Now this is the comic was from the 50s, so I'm gonna guess she was just gonna be nice to him, but I'm gonna guess she was gonna do more than that to get his good grade. It's like she puts on her best dress. She tells her friend, "Yeah, I'm going over to the professor's house." Blah 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 blah. She goes over. Um, he's like, "Oh, why are you dressed up?" He's like, "Oh, because," she's like, "I wanted to get I wanted to get the best grade I could get." Um, he's showing her around the house. He shows her his basement. She gets trapped in the basement. Now in this, he's into Nero and the gladiator type of stuff. So
Uh,
he thinks he's King Nero, and he's kidnapped. So we find out in the story that some of these co-heads have been a few co-heads have gone missing. We find out that the professor has them in his basement, and he's gonna do like a arena thing where he has these wild animals, and he's gonna set them free from their cages and attack the girls to see them get ripped apart. So this girl Stella ends up getting trapped with these other girls. They end up all getting killed. But she wakes up, and it was all a dream.
hmm.
Her friend wakes her up. "Oh, you must have been having a nightmare." She's like, "Oh, okay. I'm okay. Oh, I got to get going. I got to go to the professor's house."
Yeah.
He goes to the professor's house. Same setup, but he throws her into the dungeon. But then he thinks he's the Pharaoh of Egypt.
Hmm.
You see all the sarcophagi in the basement. And it ends with her, him. I forget if they show her getting killed, but she gets trapped, and he's now has her trapped, and he's gonna probably kill her eventually. So they took the idea of the Pharaoh part,
Hmm.
stretched it out for the full episode. They took away the whole dream thing. She doesn't fall in love with a boy that she does this for. So it's a little more of a straight story. But then we have the little twist ending, which I don't always love those. It's a dream thing, but it's the whole. I don't know how new it was back when the comic book came out in the 50s. The whole idea of it's a dream, but then she ends up going, and it's actually like, uh, like she was a premonition or something. Like it's
Uh,
Final Destination type of premonition stuff.
it sort of reminds me of the wraparound story for After Midnight, if anybody has seen that, because this has two college students,
Sure.
and the one girl has a dream. You don't know it's a dream when the movie's going on, but then runs it back to how the beginning of the film started out. And she's saying, "I didn't sleep very well. I think it's this class you talked me into." And then they go into class, and it's like it's starting all over again. We're like, "Oh no, it's really going to happen now."
Like Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
Except it happens at the beginning of the movie, not at the end of the movie.
Yeah, right.
Because he wakes up, it's like he wakes up in a cold sweat, and then this episode starts, and then it ends like he was dreaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's been a trope, I guess, at least since the 50s.
Evidently so.
So, so obviously nothing's original anymore. So anyway,
No, not if you think about it long enough.
but the drawings they make the professor look very creepy, like as creepy as the professor was in the episode. They make him very creepy in the comic. Like I said, he's very skinny and gangly, and it's like the way some of the drawings are from Tales from the Crypt. Everything looks. They make things look grotesque,
Yeah.
which I like. Oh yeah, and this Creep course was from Haunted Fair 23. So if anybody wants to look that up.
So that one wasn't a Tales from the Crypt. That was
Yeah.
On a Fear.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next
Yes.
episode, which this is one of my favorites. This is definitely one of my favorites. Come the Dawn. We got Brooke Shields. We got Perry King. And Michael J. Pollard is in this as well. In a small part. You don't see him very long, but
He's not trying to molest any campers or.
No, he's not getting naked with any campers in the tents or anything like that. He's a shop owner, I believe. He owns this store. Um, and I'm not familiar with who directed this either.
Uli
Uli Adele or
He's German. Yeah, I don't think he's done.
but
It's like a bunch of TV.
oh, a bunch of TV.
And Houdini in 2014. Oh, TV series Houdini. Oh, on a History Channel. Oh, okay.
But I think they did a really good job with this one. I didn't really see this particular twist coming.
I did
So,
at the beginning.
you,
I didn't remember the episode, so as soon as I was like, well, I'll tell you. Well, I don't want to spoil it until the end, but it reminded me of a certain movie.
oh, okay.
60.
Okay. We don't want to give it away too soon, but
Right. But anyway,
I like that Brooke Shields is playing pretty much a bad girl in this. She's a gold digger essentially. She's just wanting to steal stuff. Yep, little thief. But Brooke Shields doesn't usually. This was against type for her too, and I like that in a lot of cases, but I have said with things like Skinner, where Ted Raimi was basically a serial killer that like to skin his victims and run around with their skins on and stuff like that. It was, I love Ted Raimi's comedic stuff so much that it was kind of hard to see him, running around killing people. And I did that with several other actors that primarily their forte is either, dramatic roles or comedic roles or something like that. And then you stick them, they're just so despicable, you can't hardly stand them. But that's the mark of a good actor. But Brooke Shields definitely against type in this. And you can tell by the description for this that an axe is going to come into play, which, I was excited about. Yes, Blissful, John Boy Walton, Richard Thomas. I've seen him play. I think actually he was in a movie with Brooke Shields that might have played on Lifetime or something like that, where he was stalking her. I think. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I'm going to turn this over to TJ to start talking about Came the Dawn.
Yeah, so Roger, played by Perry King, he's out driving late at night. It's raining like cats and dogs. He's just broken up with his girlfriend. he's got a car phone, one of those in the early 1990s giant car
Oh,
phone
yes.
block things. Um, he's leaving a message on the phone on an answer machine. Her message is like, um, leave your messages to the beat, but if you're that asshole Roger, I hope you die, and like something like that. So she leaves that as her outgoing message.
Very unusual message.
Yeah. Um, so he sees this girl. Her truck is broken down. She's trying to fix it. She can't fix it. Norma. I remember her name's Norma. I wonder if that was on purpose or not. Anyway, um, he picks her up. He's like, she's like, oh, I had a fight with my husband. I can't go back home. I live in the city. Actually, we find this out later, but that ends up what's happening. She can't. She's gonna spend the night in her truck in the middle of the road, in the rain, and he's like, no, I have a cabin. No, a guy wants to take you to his cabin that you just got picked up by in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, would you go with them? Does that make any sense? I don't know, but
I would like to think I would not do that.
horror movie logic. Anyway, so he stops at the local. He's like, all right, I gotta stop. I want to stop and pick. Are you hungry? Do you want some oysters? I'm gonna stop at the local. I guess a local convenience store, but they have oysters and
wine or champagne or something. Yeah.
This and I guess whatever. So Michael J. Pollard's the shopkeeper, Ed. He's like, hey, how you doing? And blah blah blah. Um, he sells them, the stuff. I think we hear on the news about something like missing women or something like that. Oh no, we find out someone had stolen. No. Ed tells Roger about a friend of his whose truck was stolen.
Yeah.
So Roger puts together that Norma has stolen the truck, because we see Norma while he's in the store taking stuff out of his glove compartment and stealing stuff out of his glove compartment or whatever. And she thinks there's something wrong with him. Meanwhile, she's a thief. And it's like, something wrong. She has one of those men are pieces of garbage, because like I said, later on we find out stuff with her husband, which we don't know if it's true or not, but she's
right.
So anyway, they go to the house. It's like this big fancy lodge, more than just like a cabin in the woods. She's like, wow, you must have a lot of money. So they have this, have a conversation of what's going on, and he's like, oh, you should get out of those wet clothes. Go upstairs. There's some clothes up there. And he's like, I'm not with anybody, but I was, and we broke up, and there's some stuff up there if you wanna wear the clothes or whatever. And she's like, that's where she's like, oh yeah, you just want me for sex, and you're not like, you're using me, and you're one of those pieces of crap men who's cheating on their girlfriends or wife or whatever. So she's got she doesn't know what's going on, but she's got this whole story in her mind. He's got his story too, which it seems to be true, that she's a thief and everything like that, because we keep seeing her steal stuff. Like she goes upstairs, she's rifling through the jewelry that's left up there. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he's preparing food, dinner. She puts on this like sexy black dress that's like kind of see-through, I guess, a little bit mesh maybe. So she goes from like wet ponytail to like the Brooke Shields. You're more like
right.
The more attractive Brooke Shields. I forgot at the beginning of the episode, a woman is in the bathroom at a restaurant. She is on a date with somebody, and we see it from her point of view, like she's talking to somebody, and we can see like it's like a Halloween point of view that someone's talking to her. So we see like the camera moving like it's somebody interacting with her, and then she goes to the bathroom and she gets murdered in the bathroom by some woman. We only see her shoes and the woman's hair, like long hair. Right. And then it cuts to Roger and all that stuff. So anyway, we're back to the. I always forget the beginning part. So we're back to the. We're back to the house. She's like I said, she's dressed all sexy, and they wait a minute. Do they? Now I forget what happens. Let me go through let's see. Oh, he has this necklace. This
Mm,
really fancy, like jewels and stuff, and he puts it on her. Um, and they have this conversation during dinner, and she's gonna. Her plan is to tie him to the bed, steal his stuff, and get out of there. So
right.
she's starting to. So they after dinner they go up to have sex. He gets first his one of the wrists tied to the bed, and then she's about to tie the other one, and then we hear that he's like, "I heard somebody. It sounds like someone came in," and he goes downstairs. Comes up and says, "She's here." We hear him arguing with the woman, and then Brooke Shields like, "Oh, this is the woman that he's been he was cheating me. He was going to cheat on me with. He was going to cheat on with me." And
Uh-huh.
he comes upstairs and it's like, "You got to get out of here." He takes off the necklace, gives her clothes, pushes her out on the balcony. It's still pouring, by the way. Um, he's having his verbal fight with whatever woman. She comes back in with her clothes. She's gonna steal some more stuff. She had a bag with some of the stuff in it, and she went to retrieve the bag. Now she should have just left, but of course she
Oh
did.
yeah.
She always has to come back, and she comes back um, to get the jewelry or whatever. She hears the commotion downstairs. She hears the woman yelling at him. Um, she goes down. She sees the safes open, and no one's there, and it's kind of quiet. And she goes over to the safe because there's more jewelry and stuff in there. As she's going over it, she sees the TV, and on the TV is a woman with red hair, but it's
Hmm.
it's I just want to say it's Roger, and he's dressed with the hair that we saw earlier in
Yeah.
the at the restaurant when the other woman was killed, and she's holding it, and Brooke Shields turns around and she sees him there physically dressed up as a woman. He's talking like the woman. He has this big battle axe in his hand that he had seen that they show earlier when he brings her into the house and she looks at the. It reminds me of, I don't know if it's the exact one, but it reminded me of the weapon and lover come hack to me.
Oh yeah.
They could have.
Right.
They do that a lot in like especially to save money. They probably use the same prop. I would. I
That
never.
would make
I never
sense.
compared, but it kind of looked the same. Anyway, and he turns around and he sees her with her. He sees Roger with the battle axe, dressed up as the woman like she looked in the video, and she's like, "Oh no, Roger!" And then he starts killing her, and
Mm.
that's the end of the episode. So yeah, if she had just left, it might have been.
Exactly.
So it reminded me of Psycho. He's Norman Bates.
Yeah.
He has the dual personality of the woman. So,
Yeah.
so the message on the answering machine message was him basically.
Right.
So yeah, it was creepy episode,
Yeah.
especially opening with the woman's in the bathroom and then the lights get all shut off and it's like she's very vulnerable. She's sitting on the toilet,
Yeah. Right.
probably has her skirt hiked up and like and she's yelling and she's like, someone's in here, occupado. Could you turn the
Yeah.
lights on? And then she gets brutally like murdered and I'm like, wow, okay.
But
The woman who's murdered at the beginning, she's in that episode of Monsters where the guy's old and he's like an archaeologist and he takes his daughter on a
oh, okay.
he, like kills her and he gets younger. Remember that episode?
Yeah, yeah. I remember that now. Yeah.
The story and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I knew she looked familiar.
But
But
I
yeah,
like this episode a lot. Um
what was your favorite? What were your favorite things about it?
I just anything. I mean, this is gonna sound kind of gruesome, but anytime an axe is involved in something, I don't know, that adds an extra creepy layer. I feel like, um, and I'm not just talking about like uh Jason or somebody taking an axe and cutting somebody's head off one time or something like that. I'm just saying, you kept seeing the axe in this episode,
Yeah,
and you pretty much knew that axe was going to come into play once, they were talking about it and stuff. And you had seen the murder at the beginning. And I think these murders were gruesome without showing a whole bunch because
Mhm.
you saw the blood splattering and stuff like that, but you didn't really see, or I don't recall seeing like these massacred bodies or anything like that afterwards.
Yeah.
It was just you saw the shadow of the axe, or you'd see the axe actually coming down, and you'd hear the screams, you'd see the blood splashing, and that was enough to, for my brain to start working, saying, "Oh my gosh, they're chopping that poor woman up in the bathroom."
Yeah, the most you see is when Brooke Shields gets killed, and it cuts away after the axe comes down, and then
Mhm.
you see from the outside of the cabin, and her bloody hand slams
Yeah,
against the glass, and the classic hand moves down and the blood streak and that kind of thing.
but we still didn't have like a let's say Friday 13th part 6 thing where the girls, the one girl gets massacred by Jason, and I mean, there's blood everywhere. There's blood flying everywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't get that in this episode.
This is
Um,
very, not just Psycho, but this is very Alfred Hitchcockian type of thing. This
yeah,
would have been on this would have fit in like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, or the Alfred Hitchcock Hour as a story. I think the story, like I said, it's very um,
this also seems very Brian De Palma esque, which Brian De Palma was a big, uh, I guess, student of Hitchcock. You can't tell me that guy didn't watch a lot of Hitchcock films. You watch something like Dress to Kill or something like that, which was another thing that this reminded me of.
so
Um,
Willie Odell ripped off Hitchcock just as well as as De Palma did.
almost as well as Brian De
Yeah,
Palma did.
like this
But,
if this was in black and white, I think it would fit it so perfectly. The aesthetic of the
that would have been cool if they had just made this particular episode in black and white. That would have been very interesting. You should do something like that, TJ. Try to recreate this episode and do it in
well,
black and
everyone
white.
else is doing remakes and making money off it. Why not?
There you go. Um, but yeah, Came to Dawn, really, really good episode. There's going to be another episode that I thought it was gruesome, but it was really well done. But we'll get to that one. I'm going to turn it back over to TJ to talk about comparisons, unless this was the one that you can't do a comparison for.
No, not yet. I'll tell you. So this one's very different. It's sort of I don't even think this. You could say the setup is similar. So it's this guy who has a cabin in the woods. He comes back from hunting or something, um, and a woman has. I don't know if she broke in, but she has let herself in. Um, she had fallen in. So she tells him this story that she fell in a she her father has a cabin in the woods. She went to go do something. She got lost. She fell in the lake, came across his cabin, went in there, took off her clothes, was drying them on a line. Um, she was warming herself in a fire. She had like I forget, she had a towel on or whatever. Um, and he's like, "Hey, you broke in my house," and she tells him the story, and he believes her. They sort of fall in love and they have sex, and um, meanwhile we hear a news report. I forget if we hear it or we see a newspaper or whatever, but we hear it. There's a news report that a girl with a girl who from the description sounds like the girl who broke into his house. So he thinks that she's an escaped uh, mental hospital inmate, and she's dangerous. And she's like, what happened? What didn't the last night mean anything? And oh, what's wrong? And he's throwing her out. He throws her out of the cabin, and he hears her screaming out there, and he opens the door, and she's dead, and her clothes have been taken off because she had her clothes have been removed. She has this blue jumpsuit over her, and it says the name of the asylum. And in the distance, he sees a woman running off, and
Oh, okay.
that's the end of the story. So obviously, she was telling the truth about getting lost in her father's cabin, and because he's talking in the story, how, oh, I'm in love with her, and then he thinks she's a killer and throws her out, and then she actually was innocent all this time, and she's murdered by the actual person who was an escaped mental patient. So not only did he get her killed, but he also lost somebody he fell in love with. And it's like,
Yeah, which is that's bad.
it's like wow. So yeah, it
Yeah,
took
but it was pretty different than the
yeah, but they took the basic idea of a woman in a cabin, and then they wrote this whole story around it. And it's like, well, why did you just either adapt that original story in the comic or just say this is your own episode? Because it's barely the movie, it's barely the comic book. I mean,
right. Maybe just a tiny, tiny.
the thing about hearing the news report is the closest thing I would say. Yeah, because there's nothing in the episode about them falling in love. He just meets the girl and is like attracted to her. Though the comic, I mean, he's known her for one night and he's in love with her and he's making all these plans about their future together, and then he throws her out to get murdered. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's like, come on now.
Yeah.
Um, which brings us to the next episode, which all's well that ends well, with Lou Diamond Phillips, Priscilla Presley,
Yes.
and Alan Ruck's also in this, and Mr. Crypt Keeper himself, John Cassier, or however you pronounce
His only live performance in any of these Tales from the
it,
Crypt.
right. Which I thought was cool. I mean,
He even does the laugh at one point.
he does do the laugh.
He sort of has one of those, hey, I'm a thief, and I'm gonna.
And then that laugh comes out. I'm just like,
laugh comes out of nowhere, and it's like you're doing the Crypt Keeper laugh. I mean, come on.
Oh, and I forgot Mr. Rory Calhoun.
That's right, from Angel.
And also from Motel Hell.
Yes, I know. Yeah. He's a nicer character in Angel, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So, I want to ask TJ this. I don't know how many things he's seen Priscilla Presley in. Of course, that's Elvis's wife. I've never seen her play such a foul mouth type of person. I just can't recall.
I only remember the Three Naked Gun movies. I don't. Did she do any other movies? I gotta look this.
I was thinking she was in some other stuff, but maybe not.
Adventures of Ford Fairlane. That was the Andrew Dice Clay movie. Yeah, she didn't do much. She did some TV, mostly, and she did the Naked Gun movies. And
I remember a lot in the Naked Gun movies. Yeah,
I think she had done the first two Naked Gun movies, and then she did the Tales from the Crypt episode. So
and
she really got a chance to do anything. Oh, she was on Dallas. I don't remember her.
that's right. Yeah, I should remember that. My mom and dad used to watch Dallas.
Was she a nice character or a bad character? I don't know.
The character I can't remember, but I do remember she was on it.
Is it Jenna? I don't remember.
Dallas, and the mom and dad used to watch Dallas, Dynasty, Falcon Crest. Anybody remember all those nightly soap operas? Is pretty much what they were, instead of having them through the day, they were at night.
Age of Night.
But and Lou Diamond Phillips, he's not really a nice character. I wouldn't say that, but he's funny. Him and John Cassier and
Alan Ruck.
I mean, all these guys are just great in this. Um, at first, when you first see Alan Ruck, he's kind of like a goofball, some
Yeah.
goofball like cowboy like characters. What he reminds me of, and he's still goofy towards the end of it too. But anyway,
I was
I'm
like,
gonna.
hey, Cameron's in this. First, we had the principal from Ferris Bueller. Now, there's 2 episodes later, we have one of the main characters from Ferris Bueller's Day.
Yep. So I'm going to turn it over to TJ to start talking about all's well that ends well.
Yeah, so Priscilla Presley and Lou Diamond Phillips played Gina and Jerry. They're these. It starts off with them and their partner Larry, played by John Cassier, um, and so they're big scam artists, and what they do is they pretend there's oil in the local cemetery, and they get people in the town to put money up, and then they run off with the money. Well, they seem to have got at the beginning. They have gotten away with it this first time. John Cassier is their partner, and um, he's one in the grave. I think
Yeah.
they dig up his body,
Hmm.
and he's really alive. And so they're about to get away, but then Lou Diamond Phillips decides that it's just going to be him and Gina. Screw Larry. He shoots Larry dead. They go off. They go to the next town to do their scam again. She pretends she's sort of like she works for an oil. Her and Jerry and Gina pretend they work for an oil company.
Hmm.
Um, I guess Jerry's supposed to be the excavator or the guy that checks out the land for oil or whatever, and she's sort of like the supervisor or head of the company management or something like that. And they're going around towns, which I'm like, this is the flimsy. How does anybody fall for this in real life?
Yeah, because obviously, he pulls it off better than she does, I think. But she just comes in there and she, she acts like a major ball buster. Like when
Yeah.
she comes into the
They come to the
bar.
bar, she's like, "Yeah, buy everybody a drink here. Give me the bottle." And she's like acting like a big shot. And then they're like, "She's it's a little sexist, but they're like, she's a
A little
woman."
bit.
And like, it's all guys except for her. So it's like, "Oh, she's a woman," and
Well,
uh,
except for
well, there's a
that
waitress, but
Joe, the waitress. Yeah,
she's a very small part of it. She's just there to make eyes at Lou Diamond Phillips,
I
and
think so. Yeah.
I mean, she's not doing much in this. She doesn't have much of a character, really. She doesn't really come to play except for that opening part in the bar. Um, so yeah, Gina comes in like, yeah, we just found we're gonna oil and blah blah blah, and and they literally pull the you're a woman kind of thing, and she starts busting their balls about how oh yeah, she's like, yeah, you another one with men, and they think they're blah blah, and it's like she's very dramatic and she's very over the top about it. Um, and I think that's the whole point. But she's also like that. The character's not just doing it
Yeah.
to make a scene and to be noticed. She's also like she's like this. But I don't want to get all women's lib, but it's a bunch of guys in her, and they treat her like, oh, she's a woman. Like she's not
This
smart.
is an episode that probably wouldn't get made now. Uh,
It would, but it would have to be like a total parody, or
yeah, that could
or
work.
it's a documentary type piece where it's based on a true story.
Hmm.
But you can do that, but you just have to have the guys be really stupid, which they are in this episode. I mean,
Pretty much.
the only smart one is Lou Diamond Phillips, who's part of the scam. Uh,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, if it was all guys, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be as interesting if it was all guys. Um, I mean, guys can um, run scams and stuff like if what's the movie with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman.
Oh,
What the hell is that movie? A very popular movie that I can't remember the name of.
hang on.
Elizabeth Shue is in it, isn't she? Um, what is that movie?
Now that's gonna bother me, TJ. We don't figure out what that is. TJ's gonna look it up because we
I don't
can't see
remember.
it.
Rain Man. I don't know. I could remember Rain Man.
Rain Man.
Rain
Okay.
Man. Where I think it would have been more interesting if instead of Tom Cruise, it was like an actress played the character. Like it would be more because it's like it's always a guy can be a jerk and then he's lovable by the end of the movie. If it was a woman, people would be like, it's a woman. Why? It's woke and blah blah blah. All right, shut up. Anyway, but anyway, I think it works with her. Like, but she's very over the top. Her character is very. It's very like she's a gun moll from like a
Oh yeah.
noir. She doesn't have the accent, but she's like, yeah, I'm gonna see here, you're gonna have sex with me, and then I'm gonna shoot you and take your money type of situation. She's very
Yeah.
her character's very over the top because Lou Diamond plays his character sort of calmer and more, but then he's supposed to be the one that's getting all the men to sort of go for her plan because it's a guy there. Like for just a girl doing it. So anyway, they like I said, the scam works. They get all the money put up, but we find out Lou Diamond and Kassir were actually in on it with these guys that they were trying to screw her out of her money because she also had a savings which she had put in to make it look like because she's like so when they're doing the scam they're like I don't know if we trust this and she's like well I'll put in my money so you believe that you can trust me that if you're putting your money up and I'm putting my money up you believe it which is a scam in and of itself. They did a scam like that in an episode of the Golden Girls for crying out loud.
Right.
So they end up so it was all the plan so they could get her money too. So Lou Diamond never killed John Kassir, and it was all part of the plan. So so she's at the cemetery. She's gonna dig up Lou Diamond's body. She opens the casket, and it's John Kassir, and it's revealed what had happened. But we find out there really is oil in the cemetery, and she's pissed off. So she's smoking a cigarette. She's like, oh yeah, you think you got away with this? Drops the cigarette, and it explodes, and they all die in the big explosion of fire and oil and everything. And it's like, don't mess with a woman, and look what happens to you guys. So,
Yeah.
which I love that the ending was great. That was my favorite part of it.
Yeah, she wasn't any stupid woman. I think they thought that they really pulled one over on her. And isn't that the part where John Kassir does the Crypt Keeper laugh?
Yeah, when she finds out that they screwed her over, and he's like,
I'm like, I know why you guys are doing that, you know, but it was kind of over the top, especially for the character he was playing.
yeah. Though in the EC comic, they reference EC comics when they're doing stuff like they reference their own stuff within the stories, which I think it's fun. So I guess that's sort of what they were doing. But yeah, but this episode isn't a straight. It's like I said, the way Priscilla plays the character is kind of funny. It's comedic to an extent. Though she's saying some serious stuff. The way she's playing it, it's a little over the top.
Yeah, and even Lou Diamond Phillips. So when he's like that smile that Lou Diamond Phillips has, it can be very endearing and charming, if you're a woman looking at him. But it can also be sarcastic and I pull one over on you. That's how Lou Diamond Phillips is. He can, play both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you want to see him play Richie Valens in La Bamba, that's a very sensitive character. Very good movie, though.
Yes.
Off the topic of this, but he's in it. But I like this one. I found it very, very entertaining, and I like that they threw John Kassir in there, even though it might have been a little over the top. But a lot of the stuff was over the top in this episode, so it pretty much fit. Um, and then I also liked the wraparound with the Crypt Keeper when he uh, says, "This guy," he says, "This guy seems very familiar to me." And there's John Kassir up on the
Yes,
screen.
yes, the Crypt Keeper does his little thing at the end. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
So,
There's something about this guy I like.
yeah, that's right. Um, so yeah, this one definitely a fun episode. If you want to, get a lighter take on some of these episodes, this is one to go with.
Mhm.
And I think it was placed well because it was placed well just after Came the Dawn, which is a pretty dark episode. And
Yep.
so you get a little levity here. And so I'll turn it back over to TJ if he
This is
can.
the one I didn't really
This
do.
one didn't.
I didn't have any reference to research for this.
Oh, okay.
I did look it up. The episode, the I just looked it up. There's a in the comic. It's about two swindlers who run a racket. So it's basically about two swindlers, and it's about the oil, faking the oil.
Mm.
But in this one, uh, one of the one of the swindlers is a smoker, and they actually find oil in the cemetery, and he drops his. I guess he drops his cigarette by accident.
Yeah.
So it's not the whole. It's not as intricate as the episode was. So it's a little simpler. But I don't. I only know that. I only just read the synopsis real quick. I haven't actually seen the comic. I actually bought a few.
Ooh,
Uh,
cool. Did you get those from Amazon, TJ?
yeah, I bought a few. I bought just the ones that had the episodes in it because I was like, I'm not rich. I can't buy everyone.
Oh yeah, I'd love to have a whole set of all of those things, but yeah, I can't afford it either. Um,
And the hardcovers were too expensive, and most of them are out of hardcovers are out of print, which I prefer the hardcovers just because I think they're nicer to have. Uh,
mhm. They'd look real nice on a bookshelf.
yeah, no, they're just it's comics are harder to display on a bookshelf. But yeah, so
Um, so we'll move along to
ooh, we're on
another favorite episode of mine, Halfway Horrible. And you got Clancy Brown, you got Martin Cove, um, Charles Martin Smith, uh, and Cheech Marin in a small role. You got all those guys in it. Um, I at first when I first started watching it, I thought, well, maybe Clancy Brown's not going to be playing an asshole, but he's so good at playing an asshole. I guess they just said okay, because he does turn out, in my opinion, to be an asshole in this story because of the things that he does throughout the story. But this is it's got some voodoo stuff in it, zombies, and we're talking like voodoo zombies. We're not really talking so much of like George Romero zombies as we are, voodoo zombies.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really, really like this one. I didn't.
Every time I see Clancy Brown, I can only think of him in Bad Boys, where they're the scene where they're in the cafeteria, and he picks his nose and puts it on the macaroni and eats it. I always think of that.
Oh,
He's showing he's a tough guy, but I'm like eating your boogers.
I don't want to eat my boogers.
No.
Yeah, Blissful. I think I remember there was a movie where he was a kind of more sensitive, caring character, and I can't remember what it was now.
What is it, Clancy Brown? An asshole.
But I mean, he was more than an asshole on Pet Cemetery 2, especially when the character of Gus comes back. It started out like real funny,
Yeah.
at the dinner table. And then that scene where he's uh basically running down Drew and his mother, and he's Drew, buddy, and he's doing all that stuff. He looks like evil in that scene. I mean, absolutely evil. Which
Even as Mr. Krabs, he's not a nice guy.
no,
As
no.
Mr. Krabs on SpongeBob.
Blissful says patron saint of liars with him and Dana Delaney.
No.
And
Yeah.
Coco says Mr. Krabs. But anyway, I'm going to turn this over to TJ for a little bit to talk about the episode. Halfway horrible.
Horrible. So Clancy Brown and his friends are deep in the another voodoo episode. So they're at this I guess they're where the hell are they? I don't even know where they are. Anyway, they're deep in the jungle.
Some jungle somewhere.
Deep in the jungle. The natives tell them about this liquid that's supposed to they make a drug out of it, and the drug is supposed to prolong the life of food and stuff like that. So it opens. Does it open with him?
It actually opens with Clancy Brown and Martin Cove, who's a cop.
Yeah.
They have one of his friends is ended up dead, and then he's like, who would want to kill these guys? And then it goes back to 6 years before when they were in the jungles.
That's right. Yeah, he has like a picture of him and his three friends. Yeah, so yeah, it opens. Yeah, right. He's being Martin Cove as a detective. He must have been on loan from Cagney and Lacey.
Thank God he wasn't reprising his cop role from Last House on the Left.
Yeah, this would have been a funnier episode, I think, if they had done that. Yeah. So him and his friends, they're at there's this tribe. They have this liquid that's supposed to prolong the life of stuff. They do some stuff where they pour it down this native's his drink, and then he's buried.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and then they resurrect him from the dead. I guess I don't know if the drug itself does that, but it preserves life. But then I guess the resurrection of the dead's a separate voodoo thing, because there's throughout the episodes there's like voodoo dolls with pins in them, so they keep the theme of the voodoo throughout it. So yeah. So he double crosses one of his friends, pours the liquid down his throat, buries him. He's like,
because the natives want a sacrifice before they'll give him the secret.
Yes.
This stuff.
Yeah, I just watched this last night. You think I would remember some of it? Yeah, but I remember his friend going, yeah, he's like, I'm your best friend. No, why would you can't do this? No, why would that? He's like, sorry, it's about business. So I get buries his body or whatever. And then another friend has been murdered, and they've been finding these notes it says, basically it says, I saw what you did and I know who you are, kind of.
Yeah, it says, I have not forgotten or forgiven or something like that.
Yeah. It's very, I know what you did last summer note kind of thing. And Cove is still investigating. He doesn't want to say that he thinks Clancy Brown's a suspect. You think that would be his first thing, but
I think I feel like Martin Cove's character was kind of doing the Columbo thing, where he knows that Clancy Brown's guilty, and he just keeps kind of hanging around. Only you don't do the Columbo thing. Oh, just one more question. You think Columbo is leaving, and the suspect relaxes, and then he says, "Oh, I got one more question for you." He doesn't do that, but the rest of it's like a Columbo type of deal.
Yeah, so it flashes back a couple of times to, the present time where he's worked the company he owns, and then to the past where his friends, he screwed over his friend, and uh, I keep saying that. So, um, so he's showing how the drug works. This guy wants to invest, and he's like, I have two apples here. They were injected with the serum like 2 years ago or whatever, and they're, first of all, he has no proof. He's just telling them that.
You could tell somebody anything. You could tell them it's from 2 years ago, but you don't have any proof.
But I guess he's supposed to be on the up and up as far as his business, so he's not really. They don't believe him, I guess. Isn't the guy one of the DJs who used to be on MTV? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
He looked like. He looked familiar. The guy who was. I know I've seen him before.
He does look familiar, though.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So they have the apple. He's like, yeah. Well, I believe you. Well, maybe I could invest in your company. Blah blah blah. And then we meet his assistant or whatever, or his coworker or whatever, the short bald guy. What's his name?
Oh, you talking about Charles Martin Smith?
Yeah, Charles Martin Smith. That's right. He's like, oh, I'm your friend. He's like Clancy Brown's friend, but he's like giving him advice on the business and whatever, and they're trying to they're sort of trying to figure out who's murdering the friends there.
And they're trying to figure out, too, how to get around the FDA, because the FDA is not wanting to approve this stuff.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of In Pretty Woman with Richard Gere and what's his face from Seinfeld. Short bald guy. What's his name? Boy. See, you forget names when you get older.
I'm getting worse and worse all the time. I forget all kinds of stuff.
The guy who's in Jason Alexander. Aha, I remember his name.
Oh, Jason Alexander, yeah.
Reminds me of the relationship sort of between the two of those characters and with these two characters. Also, one's tall and one's short and bald. So, okay. Never eat something that you have to chew a while when you're talking. That was a bad idea.
Right. Well, see, I was doing that peppermint bark too.
These things, I knew that was going to happen. I got those, those Christmas taffies, the ones that are like peppermint, and they have the little design on it with the red and green and the little design in the middle. Yeah, you can't just swallow those. Anyway, that was a mistake.
Blissful says, I gotta read this off. TJ, I would send you my CRS button, but I forgot where I put it.
Anyway, so him and his buddy are like talking, and he's like, you should go and talk to your friend and find out what's going on. And he goes and he finds him dead with the note. He goes back to Charles Martin Smith, and he's like, "You set me up," and he starts smashing his head against the.
That's pretty brutal when he smashes his face.
Smashing his head against like a marble table. He's like,
"Oh yeah,"
crazy. And he's like, "Fuck you, you motherfucker!" Keeps slapping him. First he throws him across the room, and I'm like, "Wow, okay." So, yeah, he kills the guy, and then he goes off, and his friend from the jungle has come back as a zombie because, like I said, they resurrect people. He's been resurrected, and he's telling him, I'm the one who's been killing everybody because, for revenge on what you did to me, and you screwed me over, and now I'm getting revenge on you. Well, for a zombie wanting revenge, and he's killed these other three people. He gets to Clancy Brown, and Clancy Brown's a pretty strong guy. He chops his head off. We get some nice gushy zombie though.
Yeah.
He's a really gushy, gooey zombie, and the head gets chopped off. It gets some nice splurting of the blood.
Yeah, it kind of goes rolling and bouncing across the room or whatever.
Like he stabs him with like an ornament in the building, and it's like this gooey blood coming out. It sort of reminded me of the zombies from Dead Heat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Really gooey and stuff when they were.
I love that movie, Dead Heat.
That is fun. Linnea Quigley is the or her scene was deleted. She was supposed to be. There's a scene in that movie where it's a dream where it's his death day party and a corpse jumps out of the cake and the corpse animated by Linnea Quigley, but that was like edited out of the movie. So I think you can find a deleted scene somewhere. But anyway, he kills the zombie, but he finds out that he finds out he has an evil side to him, and he hires this sort of voodoo doctor played by Cheech Marin to rid him of his evil half. And he performs a ritual. He gets it seems to work. He calls his assistant on the phone. We don't see him, but we hear him call his assistant. And he's like, "Bring 200 cc's of the formula." And she's like, "Well, that's our experimental formula. We're not going to have anymore." He's like, "Just bring it." She brings it over, and he's sort of in shadow. And he's telling her, she's like, "Are you all right, sir?" And he's like, "Just bring me the stuff." And then we go. So he was cursed by his friend, not just his friend that had just come back from the dead to kill everybody. He came to curse his basically his friend for doing all killing him and causing all this to happen. Stealing the drug from the natives when it was supposed to be for all of them or whatever. Anyway, so she hands him the bag with the syringe, and he's like, he thinks he won, but I beat him. I found a way to beat him. And the camera, we see him, and the camera pans around to the other side of him, and the whole other half of his body is all rotted away and like gory, gooey and gushy, and he uses the last of the serum because he's now gotten rid of his evil half, but has made half of his body deteriorate. So he injects it into his neck. Well, he almost does. So he's like, he's going to inject the stuff into his body he's like, I have to inject this into myself so I can preserve my body that's been, destroyed by removing the curse. And he goes to put the syringe in his neck, and then that's where the episode ends, which I'm like, they kind of copped out. They should have.
Yeah, they did pretty much cop out because they could have done so much more with that.
Yeah.
But I still like the episode.
I always like zombie episodes.
I do too. Any zombie episodes, and even if they are voodoo zombies, because you get kind of voodoo zombies and something like Fulci's zombie. Even though they're like super, they got maggots in the eyeballs and stuff like that, but still.
If we didn't have those zombies, we wouldn't have the regular zombies.
Right, exactly.
Romero would have never made. I don't think he would have made Night of the Living Dead if it wasn't for those old.
No, like stuff like I Walked with a Zombie and stuff like that. The old stuff.
I think it was the first ever zombie movie, maybe in America.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had all this great stuff that came afterwards. We wouldn't have had Romero stuff or Fulci stuff or
Serpent in the Rainbow. I don't know if you like that movie, but I like that.
Oh, I love Serpent in the Rainbow.
That's pretty good. When the woman she starts getting the sore on her face, and then all the spiders come out. Oh,
yeah. And my favorite, like, I think my favorite line from that movie is "Don't bury me, I'm not dead." You know,
Yeah, that's right.
he's
Yeah.
screaming that. Um, but did you ever read any of the real stuff about Wade Davis, about the guy that supposedly went into the jungle or went to Haiti or wherever it was and figured out all this voodoo stuff? And he was supposed to have some real
But
experiences. Yeah, I think he wrote a book, and it might have been called The Serpent and the Rainbow, but I'm not sure if it was called that. It might have been called something else, and I'm just. But there was a book by the real Wade Davis that I think I read part of it years and years ago. I'd like to, get a hold of a copy. I think I borrowed it from the library
mhm.
and read part of it. But anyways,
And
um,
that movie can go both ways. It could be like it's really supernatural. It could be just the drug that they're taking is causing hallucinations. So I like that the movie can
yeah.
either either one of those things. So yeah.
And speaking of Charles Martin Smith, I'm pretty sure he was the one that directed Trick or Treat, right?
Yeah, he plays the principal. He's in
And he
the
plays the principal too,
the Groucho glasses for the who gets killed right away.
and it gets vaporized basically
Yeah.
by Sammy Kerr.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this episode a lot. But I do agree with TJ that I think they copped out just a little bit there at the end. They could have, done something else with that. But that's small potatoes when it was such a great episode overall. But so I'm gonna turn back over to TJ because I'm interested in seeing how this compares or contrasts or whatever with the comic book.
By the way, his Clancy Brown's secretary or assistant, whatever, was Judith Baldwin, who she was in one of the wives in the Stepford Wives. She was in the
Oh, okay.
Gilligan's Island movies. She did a couple of those when Tina Louise didn't want to do them.
Hmm.
She played a version of Ginger. She was in a bunch. She was in X-Ray in 1981. She was the desk
The
nurse.
one with Barbie Benton.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did a lot of yeah. I didn't recognize her at first because she's older, but anyway, yeah. So it's more about the voodoo aspect in the comic version, and the character that Clancy Brown is represented by in the comic is this guy who's basically he has a split personality, whereas other personality is basically evil, and he. Um, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention in in the episode, the curse is that his evil self he doesn't know he's doing. He was the actually. I said his friend was killing everybody, but
Mhm.
it was actually the curse that was causing him to black out and killed all the friends. The
Okay.
notes were all written by him because there's a point where his I forgot his zombie friend goes, see these two
Yes, I remember that.
these two
Yeah.
are handwriting. So I totally forgot about that part. Just remembering about what the comic's about. I was like, oh, that's right. He has. I just threw it off as that he had an evil half. It wasn't just that he was evil. He was actually killing all these people. So yeah, he was actually killing the people. He just didn't know he was doing it. Which is a big part of the episode that I left out. Anyway,
Well, that's okay. I didn't bring it up either.
forgot to. Okay. I forgot first. You forgot afterwards. So anyway, yeah. So it's about a guy who's basically a split personality, and his other personality is like he beats women, and he's a jerk, and he's a conniving. He's a really bad person. So he finds this voodoo priest who um, cures him of his evil half. Um, and in the story, it starts off with an embalmer from the local mortuary coming over, and he's like, "Why did you invite me over here, sir?" And in the comic, he starts telling the story of what kind of person he was, and he doesn't give his name. So when they do the flashbacks in the story, it's always Mister, and it has a line through his name. So you his
Oh,
name during the, which is very interesting way to do the story in the comic. It was like we don't know who this guy is. He's telling us this story, and it could be we don't know anything about it. It could be a fake story. He could be a crazy person because we
hmm.
don't know anything about him except the story he's telling. We don't even know his name. And within the story, you'll have the characters say, "Hey, blank," and it says it's like there's a line. You don't even know the guy's name. The characters don't even get you know their names because he's telling
Uh-huh.
the story, but he doesn't ever say his name. So anyway, it ends with him finding a voodoo priest who exorcises the evil part of him out of his body, and the reason he calls the undertaker there is to embalm him so his dying half of his body can be preserved. And
Ah.
it ends with the reveal of his body. So he's sort of in shadows when he's telling the story. You don't really see him until the end, which I like that. It's simpler maybe, but it's without the friends and the whole I have this drug and it's like
Uh,
I think the old
less complicated, I
yeah,
guess.
but I like the episode. I just think that version would have been cool too. I think, but yeah. So that's the difference.
Okay. Um, so okay, so we're to the last episode of this season, which is Till Death Do We Part, and we've got Kate Vernon, we've got John Stamos, Robert Picardo, Frank Stallone,
Eileen Brennan.
Alan Brennan's in this.
I love her. Anything she's in, I love her and everything.
Yeah. And she's a real, if I'm remembering correctly, which I should be because I just watched these last night or yesterday afternoon and
Mhm.
night. Um, she's a bitchy, kind of dangerous character.
She's like well her husband who may or may not may not have murdered was like a mob
Yeah.
type, and she's taken over his business because they run a casino that she owns and whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
But,
and William Findlay is in this.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Phantom of the Paradise and
Yep. Exactly.
you said Frank Stallone, right? Yeah,
Frank Stallone. Yep.
star-studded cast.
Pretty much. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what TJ's take is on this. I was going along for the ride with this episode. I guess this is probably my least favorite of this season. I didn't hate it. It's my least favorite because I was like, what in the hell? When it got to the end, and I'm talking about the very end, and we're going to talk about this, I was like, nah, I don't know. It didn't sit right with me. It didn't gel very well. And so and also, I don't know. I guess I've watched too much Full House and seen. I've seen John Stamos play some bad evil guys in like those Lifetime type movies because they pretty much those Lifetime movies have taken every guy that's had a good guy role in a sitcom or whatever and made them evil at some point in time. Either they beat women, they're murdering women, they're rapists, there's something bad. Um, so I've seen John Stamos do that, but he was just in this, he was like a smarmy, uh, I mean, he's a gigolo, basically, but
Mhm. Yeah.
a smarmy sarcastic guy who looks good, but you just can't get behind him, or I couldn't get behind him. And then by the end of the episode, I absolutely freaking hated him.
Wasn't he
So
in a soap opera where he played Blackie? Wasn't that his name?
yeah, I think he did. Yeah,
His last episode, the girl he was in love with, she dies because of him, and he goes to jail, but he didn't really do it. But then
was he
that's
on? Was he on General Hospital,
I
or
think
was
it
it
was, I
one of
think
the
it was General
others?
Hospital. He killed, yeah, the girl. I think, yeah, she dies. He feels guilty, and he goes to jail, and we never see his character again. I remember that as a kid watching that with my mother. I was like,
Uh,
he just disappears. What the hell happened?
I used to watch General Hospital with my mom, and then uh, One Life to Live. Mom
Yeah.
watched One Life to Live, All My Children. I wasn't a big fan of All My Children until much later. Um,
Who was
and
that guy on One Left to
General
Live? And he was a singer. He had a song in the '80s. What was that? John Jack. What was his name? I
Crap.
remember the song. Uh, what the hell is that called?
Oh, Jack Wagner. Is that who
That's
you're talking?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All I
Uh,
need is a
well,
little time to be strong. What I feel.
what did he play Frisco? Was it Frisco and Felicia?
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
I
one
did.
of those big love stories
Yeah,
in the soap
Luke
opera.
and Laura. But my
You
mom
know
and
what
my
the
aunt.
song, that Christopher Cross song, "Think of Laura." Remember that from the old days?
Oh yeah, yeah. But the thing
Kids
about
don't know what we're talking about.
I
Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift didn't sing that. We don't know anything about it.
I know we're getting on the subject, but the thing about the Luke and Laura thing from General Hospital, my mom and my Aunt Pam talked about that. Oh, it's one of the great love stories. And when I actually, I was under the impression that it was one of those great love stories. But if you actually go back and watch the episodes or watch a flashback, basically Luke rapes Laura.
Yeah, Stephen
I
liked
mean,
that episode.
he basically assaults her right there, on the dance floor or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. Um, but I don't know why they had to do that. Couldn't they have had a more, traditional? That was
The '80s, I
supposed
guess.
to be one of the most powerful love stories in soap opera history, I think.
Because I remember the whole thing. They're in love. Yeah, they raped her, and then they fell in love, and then she gets kidnapped, and then she disappears, and then she comes back, and there's a big dramatic. Yeah, and then they have a son, and blah blah blah. It's like, oh, so much stuff
And
happens.
then, they came back several times on General Hospital, and somebody was always after them. They were always on the run because somebody was after them.
Cassadines. It was always
The
the
cast of exactly. But anyway, back to till death do we part. And by the way, Blissful says they all had great hair. They did all have great hair pretty much in this episode.
Thank you. I
Uh,
do too. Anyway,
Except for Robert Picardo. He was, he
I
was
don't know.
losing his hair. But Kate Vernon had some great hair in this. But
Yeah, at first I was like, she doesn't look that familiar. Then I
mm,
realized she's in Pretty in Pink, and I realized, oh, okay, I know who she is now.
yeah. She's James Spader's girlfriend, the real bitchy one.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Your name is Jim." when, when Molly Ringwald says, she said, "Aren't you in some class?" And she says, "Jim," and she says, "Your name is Jim." She's so bitchy, but anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this over to TJ to talk about, and then we'll discuss the ending. I'll see what TJ thinks of that too.
Yeah, so Eileen Brennan plays Ruthless Ruth. She's, like I said, it's pretty much, you pretty much understand that she killed her husband, who was like a mob guy who owned this casino. She killed him. She's now running the show. She has her gigolo, played by John Stamos. She's just like, "I love you," and they're like making out at the table. And she has her two goons, Frank Bobo, played by Robert Picardo, and Frank Stallone's her other goon. They're very like, he's like, Picardo's sort of like, he's a scum, but he's like really like, he's nice to the woman. He's very nice to people. He's a very nice guy, but he's
Yeah,
murderer. And then Frank Stallone's sort of the muscle that like chops people up and whatever.
yeah, basically, yeah.
So anyway, John Stamos ends up having an affair with this waitress, played by Kate Vernon. So he's secretly having an affair with. He's having an affair with this waitress at the hotel casino where his girly woman he's having sex with for her money, basically. But her name's Ruthless Ruth. You
Yeah.
don't cheat on someone named Ruthless Ruth who just killed her husband not too long ago. And
Not too smart.
yeah, because there's a point in the thing where um, she says before she I think it's before she finds out that he's having sex with the waitress, is that he's like, or maybe no, maybe when she finds out she's like, I'm gonna I when you have sex with these women, I just I kill them and cut them up and throw their bodies in a ditch or whatever. And it's like, why would you have an affair? And he ends up having sex with her in the hotel, in the room
Oh yeah.
where he lives with the with Kate, with Ruth. Anyway, so yeah, so meanwhile, before that, there's this guy who's comes to the casino, and while Ruth is having her little meeting or whatever with her two goons, and this guy who's, what was he like? Did he work? Did he work for her?
He must have had a business relationship with her husband, because he keeps telling her like, yeah, when I worked with your husband, he knew how to do business.
Right.
I always got my money or whatever it was that he was wanting.
Yeah. So yeah, so he starts getting like, oh yeah, when your husband ran this place, it was like this. Get a woman to do it, a woman to blah blah blah. So she nicely says to him, well, you shouldn't talk. No, she does it nicely. She grabs a knife and starts stabbing the shit out of him. And she's like, oh, I'm a woman, huh? I'm a weak, worthless woman. And she starts stabbing the shit out of him. Yeah. And they got to get rid of the body. Um, and then John Stamos and Kate are having sex. They come into the room. He pushes Kate into this little alcove with like a shade with like a curtain
And
over.
it's like, how's that gonna hide her, because she's standing right there,
Yeah, and yeah, it's like, why would you? And that's then the guy gets killed, and she gasps. So Eileen Brennan hears her, pulls her out of there, and John Stamos says, "No, don't hurt her." No, he doesn't do that at all. He goes, she wanted to rob stuff from your safe, and she came here to rob you." And Eileen Brennan's like, she didn't say this, but she's basically like, "Fuck you, bitch! I know you having an affair. I've been he's that's when I think that's when she says, that's when I find your women and I cut them up and kill them and get them out of here." And it's like, well, why? And why are they? And earlier on too, the Kate's like, maybe we shouldn't be having sex here in the room that you share with. And I'm like, yeah, that makes no sense. Why he would do that? It's like he wanted to get caught. But anyway, yeah, he immediately gives over the girl. But obviously they have to kill her regardless because now she's seen too much.
Yeah.
So they go to this like place in the middle of nowhere. Frank Stallone puts on this like
It looks like a Leatherface apron.
yeah, some white apron, and he starts. Was it did he have an axe? I think, and
Yeah.
he starts chopping up the body of the guy Eileen Brennan killed earlier.
And I don't know, TJ, I'll ask you this. Like, when the episode starts out, they already have Kate Vernon's character and stuff, and you didn't know about the one guy being killed. And were you supposed to assume that they had killed John Stamos and they were going to cut him up? Because Kate Vernon is kind of like, oh, you don't do that to him and all that. So did you feel that way, or did you know it was a different guy all from the beginning?
No, I didn't think it was John. I don't. Yeah, I don't know who I thought it was, but I didn't think it was. I don't think it was John Stamos. I didn't. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that. I guess because she was being all Kate Vernon was being all gushy about, don't do that. It's like,
She's just very sweet and innocent, and though she's having an affair with a ruthless Ruth's squeeze.
gigolo boyfriend.
Yeah. So yeah. So meanwhile, while John Stamos is playing Johnny. What an interesting name.
Oh yeah, how original there.
He's trying to save face with Ruth. Meanwhile, Stallone's cutting up this dude's body, and um, Robert Picardo is with Kate Vernon, and is like, okay, so he's preparing her to be chopped up and killed, or killed and chopped up. So he's like, I think it was like, oh, I really like your blouse. My daughter would, I think I need to get, my daughter would love to wear that. Just take it off, and I'll save it so it doesn't get all bloody and stuff like that. So he slowly starts having her take off her clothing so he can give it to her daughter, and it's like the shoes and her skirt.
But the way Robert Picardo does it is not like a lecherous thing, like he wants to look at her.
He's like, oh, we gotta get her a coat because she's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what? Yeah. So she's like down to her slip in her bra, and he's like, can we hurry this along and take care of her because she's freezing? So he's like, yeah, we're gonna kill her, but we don't want her to be cold. Like,
he's
what?
like a killer with a conscience or something.
Yeah, he's got some kind of. He doesn't mind killing her. He's just nice about it. It's like, okay. Which I think that would make a great story in and of itself, just a character like that, being a murderer and stuff like that. But he's very nice about it, So yeah, they get to her, and Ruth goes, "I want you to do it," to Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
So Johnny gets a gun, and he holds it up to her head, and he's hesitant to shoot her. But guess what he does? They decide they end up he ends up grabbing the gun and shooting. I think he kills Robert Picardo first. Then he kills Frank Stallone.
And he tries to kill Ellen Brennan's character, but she speeds off in the car, I think.
That's what happens, right? She and then what? Now I have to see what happened. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. That's right. She gets away in the car. John Stamos takes off his jacket, puts it on her, and says, I'm sorry. Which I'm like, first of all, you ratted her out immediately.
Yeah.
You let her, you put her in danger to begin with, having sex with her. What's that old saying? Don't shit where you eat. He was doing that, which was a dumb idea. And it's like, he's a piece of garbage, basically. So anyway, they're having their little moment. Now we cut to the casino, or restaurant, or whatever the hell it was, and we see the two of them. She's in the jacket. She still has her panties and stuff on, but she's in a jacket, and she has sunglasses on, and they basically both take over the location there. They shoot everybody up. It's very, very John Woo-esque slow motion shooting. It's very, very bloody, very shooty. Everybody gets shot. Everybody gets killed. They go to Eileen Brennan.
It's almost like you're watching a short form version of Scarface or something. Those things.
It totally goes from what it's still within the realm of it's a 1930s shoot 'em up type of movie, like Bonnie and Clyde. They all of a sudden become Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, they do.
Basically, yeah. So they're there to take all Ruth's money and run off together with it. They force her to give them the combination. Of course, the waitress, she has to get a little bit. Lucy, the waitress, has to get a little revenge, so she's like, "That mink coat, take it off."
Yeah,
a lot of money. So she's doing the whole thing that they did earlier with the guy was taking off her, having her take off her clothes. And Eileen Brennan sort of she's not the tough woman she was at the beginning.
No, she's a blubbering.
Begging for her life, and she's like, no, no, no. Um, I think they shoot her. Yeah, John Stamos shoots Eileen Brennan. Um, but that's not the ending to the twist. The twist is
No, this is the what the hell.
Ruth decides she wants all the money for herself. And this was her plan all along, which, okay, wait a minute. She would have to had planned this ahead of time, months, maybe a year ahead of time. She would have had to have him be stupid enough to have sex with her in the apartment that he shares with Ruth. Like, that's whole convoluted logic. But then we find out it was all in John Stamos' mind, and he just shoots her in the back of the head.
Yeah, and that was where I was like, what? What?
And then he goes off with Eileen Brennan, and
so was this all Kate Vernon's like fantasy?
It was all his fantasy.
Oh, his fantasy. Okay.
He was imagining in the split second he had before he shot her. He had to have imagined all of this, and this is it's a cheat in all these movies that have this kind, because a lot of movies have this whole it was a dream, where it's something that happens within a space of 2 seconds, but then we get this. Right. We get this like 2-hour movie out of it, and then we come to the end where it leaves off where it started. Mm-hmm. So it was all in his mind. So in his mind, he was thinking, okay, if I don't kill her,
then she's going to kill me and take everything.
If I don't kill her, I'll shoot the other 2 guys, get the money from Ruth, but then she's going to decide she wants all the money for herself, and she's going to kill me. He had that whole logic. He had that whole scenario.
I'm sorry, but I don't think the John Stamos character was smart enough to even materialize that.
If anything, maybe if it was revenge on her part because he was gonna let her get killed anyways. Mm-hmm. That maybe, but it was about him imagining all this. Why would he have it? Why would he imagine that she was going to turn on him? That makes no sense. The whole dream would have been fine, but his whole
the way they played it out
makes no sense.
So I basically say that the episode was great until that, and then I was like, what?
If it either ended with them getting the money and killing Ruth, or it ended up with her killing John Stamos as a revenge thing for what he did, that would have been fine.
Yeah, but exactly.
John Stamos' character's fantasy of what would have happened if he didn't kill her.
They needed to leave that completely out, and it would have been a lot better episode.
They made it too complicated and convoluted. It just, yeah. I was enjoying the characters. The acting was good, but
yeah.
But yeah, they did a little too much.
Didn't you think John Stamos looked like a puppy dog that's been spanked for peeing in the floor during this episode?
And like, how many women did he have sex with? And the waitress fell in love with him. Not obviously he was doing. This was happening a lot. Like, she didn't think, oh, hey, how come no wonder why she was the only waitress. All her coworkers were being murdered.
Because he was John Stamos and he had gray hair.
Yeah, didn't it seem like there was no one working there? It just seemed like there was no one else there.
Yeah, no, I don't remember seeing anybody else there but her.
Yeah, I don't know.
By the way, Blissful says, TJ, you would look great in burgundy hair.
Okay. Burgundy?
Maybe TJ will have burgundy hair at some point, Blissful.
I mean, the green's almost gone. It's almost just all like off yellow.
Yeah, but it doesn't look bad. I think that's a interesting, like, in between look. I had that in between where it wasn't really bleached out blonde, but when I had the rainbow colors put in my hair, they had to bleach my hair.
Yep.
One and only time I've had my hair bleached. And when the colors started coming out, I had blonde hair basically for a little bit. There's pictures of me like that, but anyways.
I Yeah, it was.
So what's the I think I basically talked about what I thought about this episode, but
Yeah,
uh
the
so
ending
what's
ruined it.
the comparisons?
All right, in the comic, it was Haunt of Fear. This was a Haunt of Fear 12 story. In it, it's about two crooks who they rob someplace. They're running from the cops. One of them falls down and is sort of unconscious for a little bit. His partner gets away, and he goes to find his partner at his partner's apartment. And he opens the door, and the partner acts like he doesn't see him or doesn't pay attention to him. So he's sort of going after his partner, trying to find out what's going on. Uh, the partner ends up getting killed by the cops, I think. And then the other guy, we find out, he was actually killed. He didn't fall, and he actually fell, but he was killed. He fell because he was shot. So he finds out that he's dead because he goes, like I said, he goes after his friend, and he's like, people aren't acknowledging him, and he's wondering why he's not being acknowledged. Then at the end of the story, he sees his dead body after it has been shot. So
Uh,
his ghost has basically been walking around. Um, so that's basically the story. It's pretty simple, easy story, and it's like they made this whole thing with mob boss's wife and a gigolo and a
they
waitress.
probably said this is HBO. We got,
None of it.
but they had overkill though. Like me and TJ said that they overcomplicated the story and they didn't
It's like they
need
have
that.
three different stories, and they didn't know what. They just put them all together, and they didn't know how to end this. Um, yeah, I mean, I'd rather them have done at least the story and the. I like the better idea about the person not knowing they're dead.
Yeah, that would
It
be
reminded me of
interesting.
Carnival of Souls a little bit.
Yeah.
Because in that movie, this points in the movie where she's walking around and people just ignore her because they can't see her because she's caught in between life and death. We find out at the end of the movie. Um, I think
I
that's
love Carnival of Souls, by the way.
that's a more appealing story than, like I said, they had too many endings in the film version. I'm like, you should have went simpler. I think that was their mistake. But
Yeah, you can have too many plot twists or plot lines going, and this
mhm.
certainly uh, showed that. You know, but again, I didn't hate it. I was like, what in the hell? That last shot, and I'm like TJ, how the John Stamos character? I hate to say this, but that character was not smart enough to come up with that whole scenario in his head.
Yeah, I mean,
And why would he? I mean, TJ brought that up too. Why would he do that?
yeah, like how, why would he think after all they would go through that she would end up shooting him for really no reason because she doesn't. It's like in the episode, at least she said, "This is because you squealed on me or something." She just,
Yeah.
I wanted all the money for myself. I'm like, that's the lamest kind of.
That was so out of character for that character
Maybe
to
that's
do.
how, maybe that was the point that his character, he was that stupid that he actually he thought that would be her reasoning at the end. Yeah, if they had more of a reason for her, it ended it there with him. Like her shooting him would have been fine if it was like, this is for basically turning me in, you little snitch. But the acting was good. Though Kate didn't get to do much. She was mostly crying and
Mhm.
for most of the episode, crying and shivering, I guess, and then making love to John Stamos, though in a bra and a slip. She's not naked at all in this episode. But
And interacting with Robert Picardo, and
yes, the two of them should have their own movie. That would have been.
yeah, yeah, I love Robert Picardo. I basically love everything he's in, even The Howling.
Oh yeah, that's
I
right.
love as Eddie Quist, who is like the main werewolf of The Howling. He's the one that you know.
Yeah, from that movie to where I really know him from, his look, like the bald head and stuff like that. Him and Eddie Quist just don't. I don't see
And
that
of course,
that type of thing.
And of course, he was the gym teacher on Wonder Years. For those of you that watched Wonder Years,
Mm-hmm.
you can see a lot of Robert Picardo in those episodes. And then, I'm not sure that I probably had watched The Howling before I seen Wonder Years, but I had forgotten, I guess, about him playing Eddie Quist. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy crap. When I went back and watched The Howling, I was like, that's freaking Robert Picardo. And
And in that movie, he doesn't have any like well lit close ups. He's always
no,
in the dark in that movie, in The Howling.
yeah,
You barely can see, even when he's transforming, and then he has that whole conversation with Dee Wallace, and it's like it's mostly blue, and you sort of see his
yeah.
side of his face, and the rest
Well,
of it's
they're in that, where are they in that porno theater or what? Or
you
what?
don't see him, and you hear him mostly, I think, in that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And see little flashes like when he's changing into the werewolf and stuff, which I think is just absolutely fantastic. The way they do that. But again, that's off the topic of Tales from the Crypt. But
Mm-hmm.
I had to bring that up because Robert Picardo was in this episode. Um, but is there anything else you want to bring up about these episodes, TJ?
Um, oh, isn't that art cool? No.
Yeah, I like it.
That's the Carry On Death one. See how much
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
that was a cover of a comic book, man. And back in the 50s, they got away with that, like in kids' comic shops. Um,
That must have been before the comics code just came
yeah.
this hard on them.
Um, well, I remember I had that shirt on that had the woman's chopped off head in the axe, and
Hmm.
they had to um, crop it because they couldn't show the neck hanging because even though you know it was someone's, you see a woman's eyes roll the back of her head and an axe. You don't have the idea that her head was chopped off. But they shouldn't show too far down of the neck to
Hmm.
um, so yeah, they got away with it for a while, and they self did it. They took themselves out of publication. They weren't. They were like, we better do this now before like our stuff gets confiscated or.
Yeah, yeah. Which
Um,
was probably, I hate that they had to do it, but it was probably a smart thing to do.
yeah,
Um,
and then for
it-
years they were re-releasing all the episodes, all the comic books. Like
oh yeah. I
they did,
mean,
they did all the volumes, but they were in black and white, and they reproduced the covers in color, and then EC started reproducing them in like regular comic book form. Like they put 2 or 3 issues together in like an annual or whatever, and
I
then they
think I got like the single issues, and
yeah,
there's somewhere they're either here in this house stored away somewhere, or they're still at my mom and dad's. But I want to find those. I had 2 or 3 of them.
and they did a couple of these big
Mm.
copies. I forgot to mention the Came the Dawn was originally Shock Suspense Stories #9. Wheels Well That Ends Well was Tales from the Crypt 34. And then Halfway Horrible was Vault of Horror 26. And
Some
then,
of these, though, I'm surprised. Like All's Well That Ends Well was a Tales from the Crypt. Sometimes I'm, surprised by how they were classified.
yeah, I mean, yeah, looking at Came the Dawn, you would think what happens visually with the accident and the murders that would have probably been Tales from the Crypt, but it was a shock. It was a crime. It was a shock suspense story, which was like
Hmm.
more like crime and stuff like that. But that is a crime. You don't see the girl get killed by the insane woman from the asylum, but the body sort of they draw it sort of distorted and stuff. But
Right.
yeah,
But I hope you guys and gals have enjoyed this. Like I said, I hope that me and TJ can return next Wednesday with
season
the first
6, man, 6.
season 6. We'll be covering the first. I don't know. Do you know how many episodes are in 6? Because I haven't pulled out my set to look at
I'll
them.
tell you in a minute. By the way, how many of those like, eclair the sandwiches did you make? Those look good.
Uh, did I make 10? I think 10.
Yeah, I watched. I didn't see it when it was live, and I was like, oh, okay. There are 15.
15.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I guess we could do 8 and 7 or
yeah. If you want, that's fine with me.
um
You could you could tell they were hard pressed coming up with titles. Season 6, episode 13 is called "Comes the Dawn."
yeah, what did we talk about that before but
Dawn.
with this'll kill you and ease'll kill you?
Yeah, it's like we're out of it. Maybe they just forgot they wrote that title and they're like, oh,
Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says great live, Dana and TJ. Another season down. Yep. We're eventually going to cover them all unless
mm-hmm.
the world ends, I guess, or something like that. Or me and TJ are, and I hope to goodness we're not like bedridden or something like that. We can't.
Please don't put that out into the universe.
Blissful says, Dana, you made a national drooling with your eclairs. Well, like I said during the stream, as I did not come up with that. That was a chef came up with that, a chocolate a Claire's recipe. I just changed it to, I adapted it a little bit. Like, for instance, they use vanilla bean and seeds. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a vanilla bean at the grocery. Maybe I could have, but I just adapted it and used 2 teaspoons of vanilla, imitation vanilla in there. And I mean, it seemed to be fine. And there was, two couple other things that I kind of modified a little bit, like cooking them in the little silicone trays instead of putting it into a pastry bag. And so, like, I'm too freaking messy for that. I was like, I'm just getting the silicone trays, and I was able to get a couple of them from Amazon.
If you can do it easy, do it easy. I mean,
Oh yeah, and they do it less messy. But I'm glad people like that one. Um, it might have been a little stretch, or a little bit of a stretch, or a whole lot of a stretch, the way you look at it, whichever way you look at it. Me calling it, Richard's New Year's Evil chocolate eclairs, but I was thinking of New Year's Evil, and I was trying to what's a food that I can make that has an E in it, to go along with evil, and that's what
I
I
don't
came
think
up
they
with.
eat pastry in the movie, but
No, they did, and also I was thinking these are kind of decadent. You got chocolate, you got the pastry filling in there, and all that stuff, and that decadent kind of goes along with the evil thing. Don't we all feel a little bit evil when we eat something really decadent? Um,
just put some ice cream with it. It'll cut the sweetness.
but I'm glad everybody liked that one because that one was, I didn't know if it would be as well liked as some of the others I've done. Like, people seem to really like the Nightmare on Elm Street, Thompson gingerbread house, and that did come out of my head. As convoluted as my brain is, it did come out of there. I was like, what can I do that's it's getting close to Christmas time? And then I got to thinking about gingerbread houses, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'll do the Nightmare on Elm Street house.
I think you're the first. I don't think anybody else has ever done that I've
I,
seen.
I can't I don't remember seeing anything like that. When I told Steve about it, I said, guess what I'm going to do with the gingerbread house? He said, you're going to make the Evil Dead cabin. I said, no, but that's a great idea. So next year I will do the Evil Dead cabin with the gingerbread house. So I have to give credit to Steve for
You
giving
can
me
do a
that
gingerbread man with its head cut off and make it Linda. You can.
and make one of them Ash, because the gingerbread houses I get come with 2 gingerbread men. So,
Yeah.
and I ate gingerbread Freddy. I finally had to eat him, and I was like, "Goodbye, gingerbread Freddy." Everybody thought gingerbread Freddy was so cute. But anyway, don't forget that tomorrow night I'm going to be doing the unnecessary sequels episode of Seductive Poison: The Resurgence. Anybody wants to join me on there for that? I'm thinking about asking Jay to see if he usually Jay's game, unless he's sick or something, and I hope he's not sick. Game to come on at any time. TJ, if you don't have to, but if you decide you want to come on, I can send you the link or whatever. Just let me know. Or
Sure.
you can just come in the chat and hang out if you want to.
I'll see what's up. Sure. I'll,
Um,
I'll check in
and
with
then
you and see what happens.
and then Friday will be midday with Dana and Jay. A little bit shorter one than normal because me and Steve got to go get groceries. And we've got Blood Cult. How many people have seen Blood Cult? TJ, have you seen Blood Cult? TJ's probably thinking, oh God, yes. I've seen. And just one. And just one of the guys will be Sunday. Both of those will be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I don't know about doing a movie munchies this week. I haven't really had time to think about what I want to do one on, but I may pull something out of my hat. So I want to thank TJ for being on here with me.
Thank you.
And because it would be very boring if it was just me doing this. And I want to thank everybody in the chat. We had a pretty fair amount of people. There was around 10 people till we got right at the end. And then I usually notice it drops off towards the very end, which is, I get that. People are it's almost 11 o'clock here.
You can watch it later.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I wanted to bring up. I noticed on the replay that a lot of these are getting like 400 and something views.
That's good.
Especially these the ones from the 5th season and I think the 4th season as well. They've been pretty popular. And here's something that just blows my mind is my watch along for Mask. It's got 1.2K or 1.2 thousand views.
Wow. People really.
So I don't know what that is.
Stream besides watching the movie.
It wasn't a TMI stream, so I don't know.
How many views has that got?
600 and something last time I checked.
Well, that one should be the one that has 1,000. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, because and I was thinking about putting it for members only, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But YouTube hasn't. Nobody's alerted YouTube, or they haven't with their algorithms or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking if it got too talked about, then that would put up some red alerts, for it. But
like, share, subscribe.
like, share, subscribe.
Have you seen? Can you tell if anybody has shared that video?
I don't think anybody has, but CK told me that he downloaded it in case it gets pulled off of YouTube. Well, I saved it too, so
I know you can see like where people have watched most of it. There's like a little graph, I think, in the viewing thing.
Yeah, the more graphic parts got the higher points in the graph.
Yeah, we're not going to repeat what Jay said, but I want to forget that stream ever happened. But anyway,
oh, TJ, sorry about that.
I may fall asleep later and watch some of the. I didn't watch any of the. I had a New Year's party on New Year's Eve, so I didn't get.
Oh, cool.
I think I can't remember now because I was a little out of it that day. I don't remember certain things. Did I come in and say hello in the stream? I don't remember.
Well, you did tell me that. I can't remember at what point you told me this, but last Wednesday you said you wouldn't be able to do this show that we did tonight because you were having a family thing.
Yeah, that was last Wednesday, but I was talking about your New Year's Eve.
I want to say you did.
came in and said Happy New Year and then left. I think.
But at least you came in and said Happy New Year.
I remember a few things from that. Then we played Password. I was the host,
Ah,
so I had three groups of two, and you know how to play the game. You give
mm,
one word, you get a word, and you have to give one word answers, and
right, exactly.
everybody had fun. We had a toilet golf was the prize for the couple who won,
Hmm.
which
So,
I'm glad we were coupled up with people who were like husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend. We weren't like if I had two random people, how do you share toilet golf?
yes, exactly. So, TJ, I mean, I'm not trying to get you to reveal anything, but you said something about being out of it. Were you out of it just because you were tired, or was there
Sure.
some substances, adult beverages, or something that?
Well, there was a couple. There was a little of a couple of things. Yeah.
Well, I had adult. I ain't gonna lie. I had an adult beverage when me and Jay were doing Terror Train, and I
Mhm.
had the gold. For those of you that saw it, I had the gold luster dust that's edible. It won't kill you. Uh, as long as you don't get like, make sure you get luster dust. Make sure it says that it's edible.
Yeah.
Be very careful with that. Don't just put anything in your drink and start drinking it. But it was almost mesmerizing. And of course, there was a pretty high alcohol content in that because I wasn't really buzzing when we were doing the watch along, but I was a little buzzed by the end of it because I still was drinking on that drink after the watch along was over. So, and then I waited a little bit, and then when it got around midnight, I poured myself a glass of the bubbly, the champagne, the
Hmm.
pink Moscato champagne. That stuff was good. That stuff was better than the Malibu rum with the watermelon in it. I didn't really taste the watermelon. I tasted too much booze in that
Yeah.
stuff. So, but some people might say that, hey, ain't that the point that it's? But I didn't quite want that much of a boozy taste. Um,
Yeah. People who drink straight up alcohol. I'm like, how can you taste? It tastes terrible. It's not really. It's
that's
not
why
a really pleasant taste.
I think that's why I don't like beer. But unless it's I can drink Rolling Rock, which some people probably say, ugh, and I can drink Moosehead, the Canadian beer, sometimes, but I don't want to. I
Yeah.
don't drink beer that much, but other beers I've tried, oh my god, they're nasty. Um,
I like a stout or a lager.
Steve got, I think it was either a chocolate stout or a chocolate peanut butter stout, and he got this real cheap stuff a few years back, and he had to pour over half of it down the sink because he was like, "God, this stuff is awful."
I don't like flavored beer, like
Mhm.
pumpkin beer. I don't know why that's popular. I maybe I had just the worst one ever. It's just terrible. Or like, how could you? Blah.
Now I like like Angry Orchard type of stuff.
Those are okay. Yeah, yeah.
I like to mix Angry Orchard and Fireball whiskey. Um, they call those. I think at the bars they call them Angry Balls. I've heard if you mix that.
I'm a Jack and Coke guy, so
I like Jack and Coke too, or rum and Coke and different things like that. Blissel says she was a Crystal Skull girl. Oh,
oh, fancy.
I've told stories about the Crystal Skull vodka. All of us, or somebody paid $50 and got Crystal Skull vodka. I'll tell this story real quick again. And all of us, including the Dead Pit boys, were hanging out in a hotel room. And I'll never forget. Two things happened. Crater got really drunk and forgot where his hotel room was. This was at a
Oh,
convention because he left the room, and
hmm.
we thought, well, he's going to go back to his room and sleep it off. He'll be fine. So a few minutes later, he comes back and he stands in front of the room by the TV with his head down. Somebody said, "What's wrong, Crater?" He said, "I forgot where my hotel room was." I don't know. I guess he finally got back to his hotel room at some point. The other thing I remember was the Crystal Skull vodka, and Steve had already been drinking. This was in his heavier drinking days. He doesn't hardly drink at all now. But he got up in front of everybody in the room and he had this Crystal Skull vodka. And he took a drink of it, and somebody had video of this. I don't know what's happened to the video now. And he
It's
says,
not exclusive on Dead.
he was like, "This water tastes like fucking vodka," and everybody just busted up laughing. And that was before me and Steve were together. We were just, we were still friends then. And I remember him throwing, after he'd been drinking a little bit, throwing a little paper bag at me, and we were just sitting around there, just goofing off and having fun. T-shirt Joe was there, and
Ah,
he's T-shirt Joe came up to me and started singing my uh, theme song that I had at the time. I wouldn't be able to use that now because it was an ACDC song. And
okay.
he was like, he came up to me and started singing that, and Joe had been drinking all day. So I got a ton of stories I can tell, but I won't tell all those tonight. But maybe I can tell it on another TMI show. Me and Jay are going to have another TMI show, but it's
Too
going to
soon.
be.
Too soon.
It's not going to be of a sexual nature, though. It'll be other types of TMI. Like I can tell all these boozy stories or something like that. It'll be toned way down. So don't worry, TJ. You're all right.
Okay. I don't want to get scarred for life again.
Oh, Smirnoff screwdrivers are good. Yeah, I like Smirnoff screwdrivers. I just don't need to make my own screwdrivers. There and here's another thing I don't need to do. Let CK mix different types of liquor for me, and I don't know what he's mixing. And Steve basically says dark liquor is the devil. You know, that was the time that after I drank whatever that concoction CK made was, me and Steve were going back to our hotel room, and I felt like the carpet was moving underneath my feet. It was the weirdest sensation ever. It's like, what in the hell did he put in that drink? You know. But anyway, I gotta get off here, and I'm sure TJ's gotta get off here, go get some rest. And I'm sure you guys and gals gotta get some rest too. But I will see everybody hopefully tomorrow night, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the Unnecessary Sequels episode of Seductive Poison and Resurgence. And we're out of here. Uh, good night, TJ.
Good night.
Good night, chat. And we'll see you next time.
Chat's over there. There it is. Okay.